Chapter 7. Love. Perched on a bluff high above the shores of Seaside in Queen Fatum's opulent palace, Love's heart raced. Not for the politics of the world, just for his own place in it. Please, love, breathe. Easy for Princess Fatum the 23rd to say. Her entire life wouldn't crumble with her every decision leading up to the fair. She would never understand the pressure of living as a simple septec, struggling to stand out among more desirable octecs. Love septec colt a Maxwell E. Philip a Magnus B. Love, named in the tradition of the C. Neogenes, found himself suddenly in charge of the biggest event on the planet with mostly moxie as his only skill. Septec meant his genes carried between 70 and 80% God DNA, or sanguinity. God DNA wasn't literal divinity, but did carry the desirable qualities of higher intelligence, longer life, and systemic networking advantages. Love's 78.2 sanguinity was respectable, but nothing compared to the 96.45% that ran through Fatum the 23rd. The welcome ball at the World Fair would be Fatum the 23rd's great unmasking, her official entrance into Sea-ciety. As future Queen of the Sea, her coming out was an event of mythic proportions. Every eligible suitor, each one eager to claim her hand, would compete for her favor, though none had even seen her face. Like all underage sea royalty, she wore a mask in public, making her reveal a spectacle everyone anticipated. Love himself had not seen her maskless, despite working in the palace every day for an entire orbit. Having grown up with these customs, Love understood deeply that the entire event was more than a ceremony or a party. It was also mostly about asserting the sea's place right after the Isle of the Gods as the most powerful, advanced culture, the inheritor of their knowledge, and thus successor of their power. He had never set foot inside the palace before this assignment, but now fate had placed him here among the towering figures of sea. In just 3 zetas, all the powerful families from every corner of the world would gather here, with 3 generations of Fatums. Queen Fatum, her daughter Fatum the 22nd, and her granddaughter Fatum the 23rd. And their love would be, hopefully, doing more than handing out drinks. Fatum the 22nd descended the stairs, embodying the effortless grace of sea royalty. Draped in a green-blue gown, her white hair framed a face as icy as her sharp tongue. Whispers claimed she could destroy reputations with a few snide insinuations muttered into the wind. This would be his first direct interaction with her, and the anticipation had kept him sleepless. Stopping at the top of the staircase instead of joining him in the middle where he'd planned to paint his vision from, her eyes narrowed towards Love with disdain. "It's done, Septec?" Her tone made it clear she did not appreciate being forced to converse with someone so far beneath her. Love felt a prick of humiliation as he lowered his gaze to the ground, following the protocol that kept their social hierarchy intact. "Not quite, my grace." He gestured behind her, his hand trembling only slightly. A win. The vase at the top of the stairs contains a sample of the wild mountain hyacinth being brought from Death's Peak for the occasion. Small, azure flowers that could fill a room the size of Fatum's hall with their sweet, sweet scent. Hyacinth were his final masterstroke on his masterpiece of a setting. Securing these rare blooms had been a logistical nightmare that he'd been proud to have untangled. They will flank both sides of the staircase, a vase on every step, he finished. Fatum the 22nd huffed. "What color specifically are these weeds?" she asked with an air of boredom. "They're shades of sapphire, my benevolent," Love replied, projecting his voice at the appropriate volume to compensate for the angle of his head. Bradford had drilled this skill into him. Ugh, how he wished for Bradford's casual grace now. He always knew how to handle aristocracy. "Which sapphires? Northern or southern?" Fatum the 22nd quizzed. Love hesitated, choosing his words carefully as such a distinction was beyond his station. "These are extremely rare flowers, my grace." Bradford Lesson 219. Never speak with definitiveness. To royals, everything is negotiable. Each petal holds every shade of sapphire imaginable. Why, I'd wager a discerning eye could find a match for nearly any stone in your fine collection. A silence fell over the hall. Fatum the 22nd made a small thinking sound. While he couldn't read her reaction, Love took the pause as a sign of victory. Then, Fatum the 23rd joined him halfway down the staircase. The air shifted, but Love couldn't quite place why. Again, he felt lonely without Bradford, who would have known exactly how to read this moment. Instead, Love, at just over 2 decades, must rely on his own wits to succeed. Any hope of snagging an Ochdec womb and moving his family up the social ladder hinged on his work here. There was no room for error. Cocoon, Fatum the 22nd said suddenly, using the pet name she'd bestowed on her daughter. One Love had the sneaking suspicion 23 didn't like very much. Did we decide on your frock? Love could feel Fatum the 23rd's presence beside him. The princess, despite her mother's cutting words, was rumored to be different, kinder, perhaps with a rebellious streak. I was leaning toward the blue, Fatum the 22nd mused, but I'm afraid it would clash terribly with these weeds. The yellow is lovely, but your skin tone plays so terribly with it. Then, with a wicked smile Love could hear in her changed tone, she added, Could we paint the petals pink? Or perhaps find some pink hyacinths? Love seethed. Painting the rarest flowers on the planet? Before he could respond, Fatum the 23rd leaned closer to him, her hand brushing his elbow. Unspoken, maybe only in his imagination, actually, he heard her whisper, Breathe, Love, please. The touch was so brief, so forbidden, that Love wondered if he'd imagined it, but he hadn't the time to consider it fully. In a bright tone, Fatum the 23rd said, Mother, I agree with you. Completely. I adore the color of sea jewels, but walking through them while wearing them would be dreadfully gauche. She placed a hand dramatically on her chest. Given the rarity of both these blooms and myself, it is a difficult decision. Fatum the 23rd paused, as if listening closely to the divine inspiration from fate herself. Why, Mother! We know how seafarers love to take inspiration from our decisions. Wouldn't it be sensational to see seas of sea gardens? Here, 23 turned, Love turned with her, and she swept her open hand slowly along the horizon, painting the picture for her audience. Filled with glimmering sapphires next spring. A lasting reminder of my arrival into matching society. Another dramatic pause to let her mother's imagination run. Then, dropping her arm and shifting her tone, 23 added, That is, if the septec can indeed deliver these rare blooms without killing them. Although Love knew what she was doing, her words still stung. Expertly weaving compliments with insults to neutralize but satiate her mother was inarguably brilliant, and so well done, he wondered, am I the only one who noticed what she just did? He guessed not. After all, the queen was there, and her decades of cunning were well-trodden bedtime lore. Fatum the 22nd passed them, moving to the bottom of the stairs with Queen Fatum. Even though they were royalty, Love guessed they were envisioning the scene of Fatum the 23rd, without the no-name septec beside her, descending in a yellow gown surrounded by blue. After a brief murmur between them, Fatum the 22nd gave her verdict. It must be immaculate. Proceed. Love let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. There was a saying in the sea. The sea's favor often comes with an undertow. Love had fought for these flowers, and now the pressure was on. One misplaced vase, one wilted bloom, and Fatum the 22nd would have him demoted to toilet steward on a coral barge. Or worse, sent to a Noski factory to run a press and risk a finger. Or more. That's what they did to boys who failed without a family to catch them. Society was mostly frivolous until it was ruthless. But for now, he allowed himself a speck of hope. If everything went perfectly, maybe he'd be seen as more than a lowly septach. No, not him. Love's fate was sealed. But he could still be a rung. The ladder of legacy is tall. Perhaps one day, Fatum the 23rd's descendants would see his as worthy matches. And that was worth working towards.